Greetings, geeks. This is another episode of Geeking Off the Page with Mike and Trevor. It's kind of like Batman and Robin. I don't know who's wearing the green Speedos. We'll let you decide. Not that it matters. We're both happily married with lots of kids.
I'll hide in the all-encompassing shadows. We have plenty of words that we can sacrifice. So I think we're going to kick off first with what's been announced at the San Diego Comic-Con.
San Diego Comic-Con, what's that?
Yeah, if you don't know what it is probably one of the largest gathering of geeks and nerds in North America. It's where a lot of studios will announce new projects, give teasers, drop trailers. It's a big spectacle. You usually have to sign up for tickets like a year in advance, and that doesn't guarantee you'll get one. Anyways, so Marvel decided to come out in a big way. Everyone's been grumbling.
Come out, as in like
right out of the closet, guns running. Everyone's been grumbling about Phase 4, how lackluster it seems, how slow it seems, and we talked about this in the last podcast with the peaks and valleys.
Yeah, a lot of valleys.
If you go onto YouTube, a lot of these have trailers. Plus, we'll talk about some of the trailers for the non-Marvel stuff. So, Quantummania is officially the start of Phase 5. Everyone thought originally it was part of Phase 4. Actually, Quantummania kicks off Phase 5. So you have Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantummania. That's in February of 2023. In spring of 2023, The Secret Invasion. So like the Skrulls and all that fun stuff.
That's a movie? I thought it was going to be a TV
It's
show.
going to be on Disney Plus, but they have it side by side, things coming out. May 5th, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. Roughly around the same time in summer, Echo, the character from Hawkeye's series, so the deaf girl.
Yeah. I'd rather see Daredevil than Echo, but okay.
At the same time, Loki season 2 will be dropping sometime in that same summer section.
So we might get an ending.
In July, the Marvels. So Miss Marvel, who we just finished seeing, and that movie's coming up.
I'm not sold on that one, but we'll see. I'll reserve judgment.
November, Blade, who we heard his voice at the end of the Eternals in the little cinematic cutscene.
Did you watch Eternals?
No. I fast forwarded through it. It was the god awful movie.
I'll look for that end credit. I have not watched it either.
In fall of 2023, Ironheart, who will be introduced in Wakanda Forever, because they just dropped a new trailer for Wakanda Forever, and you see Riri cutting the heart out of a sheet of iron, and you see her face a couple of times. So she's in the movie.
Okay.
So we're going to see a glimpse of her there, and then she gets her own series in fall of next year.
I'm not sold on that one. They're going to have to win me over. But
in winter of 2023-24, Agatha, Coven of Chaos. So Agatha Harkness is back. And she was a really fun part of WandaVision. So
she was an awesome character, but seriously, do you think she needs her own show over other Marvel characters?
Well, here's the question. So when Scarlet Witch banished basically the Darkhold, how did that affect Agatha? Was she able to bubble herself so that kind of went by her and left her unaffected? Or so it's a big question there. And then we have my favorite one, spring of 2024, Daredevil, Reborn Again, and they got Charlie Cox.
Movie or TV show?
I think it's going to be a series on Disney Plus, but he is also at the very end of the She-Hulk trailer, the new She-Hulk trailer.
Okay.
There's a sequence where she's doing something. This guy comes flipping in. You don't see his mask, but you see the two billy clubs as it slowly pans up his body.
Okay.
Daredevil's in there. And then they end it with the film May 2024, Captain America. This is Sam Wilson, Captain America, New World Order. Maybe they're finally doing things right. We'll see.
Although with the Captain America, wasn't the same guy who was the showrunner, director of Falcon Winter Soldier supposed to get this movie?
I don't know. All they've said is that it's Captain America: New World Order. They've left. That's the only. They only announced the title. That's
Okay.
it. That's all they gave.
I was pretty sure those guys were helming the movie, and I was pretty underwhelmed. I was like,
Also, we have a bunch of animated shows coming that are work with they're on Disney Plus. They work with the Phase 4 and Phase 5, but they are not directly like a thing of it. But we have I Am Groot. There's going to be a short series of I Am Groots. They released a trailer for that. There's a new X-Men, which they're saying not the X-Men for kids sort of thing, but it's Marvel 1602, which is more of like Hela, Odin, that sort of stuff. Season 2 of What If. And then they're gonna have like a Spider-Man at college, like Spider-Man college years, stuff like that. Disney / Marvel are kind of up in their game. They've heard the fact that people like there are big such long stretches before shit happens. They're like, all right, let's start filling that in.
well, it's long stretches, but there's been a lot of shit.
Oh yeah, but
at least in those stretches.
It's basically Disney has pledged that Disney Plus, we won't go more than 1 or 2 weeks before a new series, either a Star Wars or Marvel series, will be filling the gaps.
I'm very curious to see if any of this is going to be good.
Yeah, they did show. There's a new trailer for Andor is out. They showed stuff for that.
Did that look okay? I didn't see any of this.
I saw it was a still frame. I couldn't get a.
Was the still frame really awesome?
It looked pretty good. It did. I don't know how awesome a still frame could look. But I'm hopeful that they're realizing that people are like kind of like Phase 4, the Eternals, wah wah. So yeah. So some of the other trailers that came out so far, AMC is doing a series of Interview with the Vampire. So not like the Tom Cruise little blurb movie. They're doing like a series. And that'll be dropping in October on AMC. They did stuff for Black Adam. They actually had The Rock in Studio H dressed up as Black Adam, and they had like lightning and thunder behind them. So bullshit. So people in there got all excited. There's a new one for She-Hulk. John Wick Chapter 4, the official trailer dropped.
Did you watch that?
I've watched 1, 2, and 3. 3 was kind of but 1 and 2 were fun. There's the Dungeons and Dragons.
John Wick 3. That's one I was so excited for because I loved 1. I loved 2.
Yeah, 3 was just
3. It was like 20 minutes. It's like you're on the roller coaster. It's like, yes, this is the greatest thing ever.
And then it flattened.
And you get about 30 minutes in. It's like,
I'd like off the ride now.
Done. Like, what's going on? Wait, you're in the desert and you're getting your finger chopped off, and
yeah,
I'm kind of confused now. Yeah,
the trailer for 4 looks interesting. So I'm kind of hopeful that it's gonna get back to its roots. It's got Donnie Yen in it, so he's gonna kick up the action. But yeah, there was the Dungeons and Dragons Honor Among Thieves as actually endorsed by Dungeons and Dragons. So you got like in the trailer, you see like the Splacer Beast, you see dragons, you see a gelatinous fucking cube, a mimic. Like the guy goes to open the chest and it suddenly springs.
Yeah,
open.
I got some stuff to talk about that. We can do it now or later, but
yeah. So, and then like the Lord of the Rings, the Rings of Power. Marvel.
I think that's dead at the doorstep. Like everything I've seen on that looks so bad. It looks like they've taken Tolkien's masterpiece and just kind of like diarrheaed all over it.
Well, I mean, the whole idea is they're explaining about like the Rings of Power when they were forged and all that bullshit. So, I mean, going way, way back again.
But it also looks like they're mucking with the history, like all the stuff that Tolkien wrote.
Really,
again, like he was essentially a historian. Like he was creating this history of this fictional universe.
Well, I mean, Tolkien's books span a huge range.
Right.
But I want to go more. So Marvel also had one of their cartoons is, let me get this right, Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur.
I remember that comic. I never bought it, but I flipped through it.
It's a
awesome title.
Yeah, it's a kind of unique little art style. I'm gonna watch it. I'm definitely check it out. And then there's stuff like Teen Wolf the series.
Teen Wolf.
Yeah, but more of a
As
instead
a
of
Marvel?
no. This is
Oh.
like these are other trailers. But Teen Wolf I don't know if it's going to be the movie or a series. I think it's supposed to be a series. Either way, it's not the lighthearted Michael J. Fox.
Oh.
It's a lot darker and grimmer. Yeah, and then there's like, I mean, it's there. Vampire Academy, I think, is coming out as a season. So that that terrible movie is going to be kind of washed away, and then they're going to actually have a series. Yeah, I'm just trying to think if there's anything else. Let me check quickly. Yeah, as I said, they dropped a crap load of new trailers. Prey got another trailer, but it's coming out like what, 2 weeks from now? So I don't see why that they need. Oh, National Treasure is not getting a series. I don't know if the Cage is
Nicolas Cage.
I don't know if he's a part of it or not. Marvel Zombies is getting their own series on Disney Plus. So
there will be a lot of zombie lovers that love that.
Yeah. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff that they've dropped over the last like 2 days. I haven't even been able to keep up with all of it. I have family visiting, and it's just like catch like a little bit here and there on my phone, and I'm like, oh my god. So yeah, I'm kind of excited with some of the stuff coming forward. The stuff I've seen more of Black Adam makes me want to see the movie even more. I think The Rock is going to nail a shit out of this. Even the Shazam 2 Fury of the Gods looks a little better. Great. But at least we got to see who the villains are. So yeah.
Who are the villains?
It's like two old gods who are trying to steal the power that Shazam has, because he's basically borrowing power from gods.
Yeah.
That's how his powers work. So they're trying to get the wizard staff that allow them to take those powers back and into them and boost their power. So meanwhile, the rest of the Shazam family, at one point, Shazam he's even complaining like, I need help, and everyone is off doing their own thing. And he's like, we're a family. Hello, we help each other out. Am I speaking into a void? So yeah. But yeah, so as I said, there's a lot of trailers to check out. I'm kind of excited. So yeah, we'll see
the
how.
The only thing I think I'm really excited about is Quantummania.
Mm-hmm.
That's one, like,
which
for me, this is the make or break for me.
They did so there's a poster. You've got Ant-Man, the Wasp, and Cassie in an Ant-Man style suit, but it's purple. But in behind them is like, in the cosmos or anything, is a comics accurate depiction of Kang. Like
nice.
with the armor, the purplish armor, and like the way it cuts his face is I was excited by that. They're actually going with that armor.
That's awesome.
So when I saw that image, I was just like, yes, that at least they're not doing some Google. We'll just put them in a 3-piece suit, sort of bullshit.
And that's the kind of thing too, where I always hate when they do the gender swaps on characters, like when they did the Sandman death.
Yeah,
it's like she doesn't have white skin. She should have white skin, but Kang.
Yeah,
it's like that actor. He looks like a Kirby character.
It looks like they even gave him the bluish tint to his skin.
Yeah,
so it's really going to react well against the purple of his of his armor.
Right. So the casting of the character, who looks like a Kirby drawing, if they give him that coloring on the face with the light and stuff, that could be phenomenal. So I'm looking forward to that.
Well, let me see if I can find it. We're looking for the poster. Can you see that?
Yeah, that looks amazing.
Yeah, that's the poster they released.
That looks so Kirby.
It does. And I like the fact that, we don't know what Cassie can do because she doesn't have wings. They could come out, we don't know. But yeah, Kang in behind them, that looks like a Kirby cover. Like, it really does. I hope they can pull this off, because that looks so awesome. I saw that one and I was like, ooh, I gotta find out what else is coming out of it. That was the first indication I saw from the Comic-Con. I was like, oh, okay, so if that's what we're starting off on, let's see how it goes. Let's see where they go with this. So yeah. Anyways, we're gonna take that a big chunk, kind of set it to the side a bit. If you're listening,
I'll do a quick follow-up from last week, okay? Because you gave your Thor Love and Thunder review.
Yeah, let's hear it. Let's
and my daughter went to see it. So I didn't drop the $200 to bring the whole family, but she decided to go see it. And she came home and she was, mildly happy, I guess, with it. And every single point she had to say was exactly what you said last week. Every single one, all the way down right to the end.
Do you think she listened to the podcast and wrote them down and made sure she hit those points?
Nobody listens to this podcast.
Oh, good.
But the comments were the same. And then right at the end, she said, "But Dad, I don't think you would have liked it."
Okay.
And I think that has a lot to do with just the like the hero arcs and the stereotypes and like the woke messages and all the stuff that they added. Of course, I'm very vocal and I tend to speak my mind, and my kids cut and then they kind of know what Dad likes. But I thought that was interesting. Like, it was 100% in line with what you said. But with, I don't think Dad, I don't think you'd like it.
So then just wait, about a month from now.
A month or so,
it'll be on Disney Plus. Because it looks like they're doing that 45-day plan.
Thor's butt.
Yeah, like they're doing that 45-day plan of like they put the movie after it and then they 45, because like Lightyear comes out on Disney Plus in like next week or a week and a half from now.
Wow, that's crazy.
So yeah, I have not been able to catch up on the Orville, mainly because I want Mare to be beside me while we're watching, and her schedule has just been hellish this week. So
what's the last episode you saw?
We saw the high school one, which was a fun episode. That was a lot of fun.
So basically all the stuff we discussed last week.
Yeah. I haven't been able to see like all the stuff that I want to catch up. I saw a little blurb that Dolly Parton's in the newest one.
Yeah.
So I got to see that one. So Alone.
All right, let's talk Alone.
Sure. We got some time. Let's
I'll skip back to Orville eventually, but yeah, let's go Alone.
Okay, so I think, let's see. I know we're finished season 1.
Where are you at?
Well, see, the thing is we got 2 different streams going because now we're with the girls in season 3 in Patagonia.
Okay,
and
but you're not finished.
Season 2. No, we're only like 3 or 4 episodes in the Patagonia, and I think we're like 2 episodes away from finishing season 2. So I don't know who's won yet, and my contender's still in. So I'm like, you gotta stay. You got it, because I mean, I was lucky.
I can't do any spoilers.
Don't spoil it, but I mean, let's talk about. I mean, the clip with when I saw episode 8 and he talked about wanting a lightsaber, I was like, yes. Even though
I know that moment. Okay, so this dude, David, in season 2 of Alone, he's a guy. He's a pastor. He worked for a ministry. He doesn't say he was a pastor. Yeah, he worked for a ministry. But then he's left the ministry. Okay.
So,
but anyways, he's a man of God. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
He has a wife who left him. He's got 3 kids. He's trying to support. Has had some rough times. And
he says he really, really needs the money. So he's going to stay. If it kills him, he's going to stay to get that money.
Right. He wants to be the dad that says yes.
Yes.
What he says.
That was a big thing.
Okay. Does he remind you a little bit of Gavin?
A little.
When I was watching him, like the lightsaber moment, it's like he could be part of the Freak Pit.
He could. Honestly, yeah. I think he kind of reminds me a bit of John Scallon.
Okay, yeah, I can see that.
In as much as when John put his mind to something that's something he wanted, he didn't care what it took to get there. He was getting there. He was achieve, and that's one thing I was really admired about Scallon was he would set himself a goal no matter how ludicrous or ridiculous or what hoops he had to jump through to get it, but he got it done.
Yeah, that's why cyberpunk adventures were always so good.
Yeah, I mean,
it was just these binders and collections of story stuff and just bombarding you with. It doesn't matter if it was ripoff of Bubblegum Crisis or Akira or
he just
whatever.
He adapted to what he needed, and so when he said he wants to be the dad to say yes, I mean, I could relate to that because there's times when your kids ask for something and you're just like, not feasible. I got to say no, and just the heartbreak, and you're like, okay. But when I think when you're in a position where we don't know the details of why he left the ministry or or anything like that, or all we know is the state of the finances aren't good.
Yeah.
And that he's willing to go, and that's what struck me is when they did the initial interviews, and that he just seemed the sort of man he's going to go that extra mile to win. And it doesn't matter. I mean, if he has to wrestle a black bear to the ground and kick it in the nuts repeatedly, he's going to do it. He's just going to be like, shit, that's what we're doing today. All right, come on, bear, bring it.
Yeah, and
Whereas
Josh even mentioned that
I
in
think
like
I heard a
Facebook
bear.
comments.
Yeah,
Right. Like Josh had mentioned him how he lasted longer than he thought he would. But for me, at the beginning of the season, immediately I liked the dude.
Yeah, I
Just
like
intellectually and philosophically and everything. He was on.
Yeah, I like the
right
sniper
track.
guy, but I just had a feeling he was going to tap out when he was going to like the guy who got bored because he was making projects and got himself bored, and I'm like, well, I'm just going to go home. And I was thinking the sniper guy was probably going to be in the same situation because yeah, he could survive, but with the military, you survive to get rescued.
Right.
I don't know if he would, been able to come up with enough things to do to survive and not get bored of where he was, which is,
And he had that whole idea of day 22, climb a mountain.
Yeah, I'm just going
to climb a mountain. It's like once that was done, mission accomplished.
Yeah, the second he did that, I'm like, this guy's out. He's gonna go a couple more days, and then he's just gonna like, I'm out of here.
Especially when his camp was flooded. But yeah, that dude was on my top of the list of guys who would make it.
But I find
he's doing Muscle Beach in the wilderness.
Yeah, he's like lifting rocks and doing exercise.
It's like, what the hell? Yeah.
He's like, oh, I did my workout. I guess I'll go take a swim and see if I can catch a fish and write some memoirs or.
Yeah.
And the other guy's like, I'm just going to invent a whole new calendar and go bowling and roll some dice that I carved.
The Mike dude, he is like the fact when he's bowling on the beach just for fun. It's like, okay,
what the hell?
His mental state is great. Like he's obviously got the food. He's playing. He's doing these inventions.
Whereas the other guys are like, I haven't eaten in 4 days. I can't seem to figure out how to make the goddamn fishing net work.
Okay, I'm going to do a little bit of a spoiler, but apparently in Mongolia, there's a future season. This is a problem with a family that's watched multiple seasons ahead of me.
Mm-hmm.
But apparently there's a reunion between characters, and one of them is Nicole, I think her name was, the one who was catching all the salmon.
Okay.
Season 2. And there's a little conversation. It's like, yeah, I watched. I saw how good you had it. It's like the stars were winking at you.
Well, the fact that she was throwing salmon back.
Yeah.
You catch a salmon.
I'm so full, you can go. It's like, what the hell?
Yeah, what? Smoke the damn thing. You could make it last longer than a day.
Oh, it's such a good episode. In fact, my family's watching it right now. So again, my mother's hooked on the series. We watched the end of season 2 last night.
Mary and I well, so this weekend this Friday was Ramona's birthday.
Mm-hmm.
We're having the big party tomorrow with like multitude of children and parents. So Mary and I'll probably finish off season 2 Monday, Tuesday. And then we're gonna jump to probably season 4. So I think we're gonna do like odd seasons are gonna be with the girls, even seasons are just gonna be Mary and I. So we'll see.
Where are you at on 3? Are you on 3?
We're on 3. We're 3 or 4 episodes in.
Okay.
And yeah, it's Patagonia is like as you said, she makes a chair before anything else. Makes a chair. Really?
It's so nuts. And one thing I'm finding is that there's callbacks to previous episodes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like it's interesting. And that's when I realized I shouldn't be jumping forwards and backwards because it starts spoiling things.
Yeah, you miss it. Now, the other thing is it's killing me. So I'm just going to say in Patagonia, they have plenty of bamboo. There are like little sections that's just bamboo and like crazy lengths of it.
Yeah.
And then you see them like, well, I'm going to make my camp now. And they grab like, an armful of bamboo. And then you see them sleeping on the goddamn ground in a sleeping bag. Like, and I said to Mary at one point, if you're worried about like the wild boar, the big ass wild boar and whatnot, you build the platform that you're sleeping on, in essence, the bottom of you build that 6 feet up or 5 feet up.
Yeah.
You notch the trees, you get bamboo, you go from tree to tree, lash it on, make yourself a frame, use bamboo to kind of fill in the frame, 2 ways, give it strength, and put your bed up there so boars can travel underneath you, or stuff goes underneath, and you're not laying in. If it rains, you're not going to be laying in wet. You're not laying on the ground. The ground robs you of so much body heat when you lay on it.
I'll just say they do some cool stuff in season 3. Wait for it.
Okay, I was just like, and I mean, the one girl who's building her house, and she's like, cross thatching the walls and stuff. That was pretty cool.
Yeah.
But then she's just got a bare tarp for her roof, and I'm like, they keep saying it gets super cold here, like gets down to like single digit Celsius here, and they're like, oh, my tarp's good. No, it's not. You're going to fucking freeze. But that's end red. So when they say like I'm going to build my house, and then they do like what looks like about 3 hours worth of construction, and like here we're good. I'm like, get your ass off the ground when you're sleeping. Then you don't have to worry about what's that noise.
Yeah.
Because it's going to have to climb up to come to see you. By then, you're going to be well prepared.
Yeah, just make one of those deadfall traps and just, crush the boar, eat some bacon, done.
Eat a whole lot of, those things get up to 600 pounds. That's a lot of bacon. That's a lot of cooking. So, yeah. But it does look like the lake they're at is very plentiful for rainbow trout. Like the one guy just kept hauling in trout again and again and again. He's like, I got 6 trout to eat.
But one thing about that is the whole fresh water thing.
Yeah, you don't have to worry about
dealing with the salt water.
But the downside is they don't have the sea bringing them like little gifts, like cordage and
that's true,
barrels and stuff like that. So it's kind of like a catch-22, like you're damned if you do, damned if you don't sort of situation. So
yeah, the big thing with season 2 with David, my favorite comment was the lightsaber, and I posted that in the Facebook group. But just how it's like.
Yeah,
oh god, I wish I had a chainsaw or a lightsaber.
And you just turn it to cut wood mode.
Yeah, it's like, would it catch it on fire? No, because it's a sci-fi weapon. There's got to be a setting to chop firewood and not set it on fire.
Yeah,
that was amazing. And then
that kind of harkened me back. Do you remember Family Guy did they did Star Wars, Empire, and Jedi?
I never watched Family Guy.
The first one is Blue Harvest. It's fun. It's really fun to watch. It's basically some of the characters are turned into like R2D2 one. And at one point, Peter's character, who's Han Solo, they're like, well, goodbye. And they gave him like a cheese log and like a little mini lightsaber to cut the cheese. And he like cuts it and he's like, nope, I don't like that. But it was just like, okay. So they're just handing out little cheese knife lightsabers to cut things. And then there's another, what show was it where they used the lightsaber as a loaf of bread and it toasted the bread as you cut it? And I was like, I want one of those. A little lightsaber knife that as you cut the bread, it auto toasts it. That'd
be amazing. There's got to be a setting for that.
There's got to say, cut Stormtrooper in half, cut through steel door, toast.
Yeah.
Chop firewood, no flame.
And the other great thing he had a rant when the eagle stole his fish.
Oh yes,
where he was saying it's like
that must be a Canadian eagle.
Yeah, because an American eagle would not steal the fish from a patriot. Yeah, that's going to be one of those Canadian eagles. They're not a symbol of their country. They don't care. And it was that rant. Oh my god, I was just rolling laughing on that.
When I saw that, Mayor immediately looks at me and I'm like, just look away.
You went, I am the Canadian eagle.
Well, I'm not anymore.
Oh, so now you're
it actually popped up on my Facebook feed. Yeah, back in June, June 20, I think it was popped up like, oh, on this day I was like, oh yeah, it was a year ago.
Yes. So now you can't eat any Americans' fish.
No, I can't be stealing Patriots fish. Damn it. So yeah, so Alone, I'm having a great time with it. It is so fun to watch.
And I'm looking forward to Mongolia because apparently that's the redemption arc, and they bring a lot of people back.
All right, so
a bunch of favorites are all there, and I'm just itching to get to that one. And in fact, my brother's girlfriend was up here, and we were talking about it, and she dropped some massive spoilers. I was like, whoa!
Did you throw like a pot at her or something? You pick up a chair. Shut up!
I mean, luckily, I'm really bad with names, and I forget things very easily. But at the same time, I mean, the moment was pretty awesome. She tried to cover herself and talk about old seasons and what happens. Like, oh no, I knows.
I have to throw a chair at you now. Duck.
But that's how good the show is. So anybody who's sleeping on this, just watch it. At least for the lightsaber episode.
It just honestly, I mean, this show hooked me by the second episode. Like, I watched the first episode. Like, I was like, "Hey, we're gonna watch Alone." I was like, "Okay." We talked about it. And by the end of the first episode, I was like, "All right, next episode." And we had originally planned that we were no more than one episode a night. That went right out the window, like first night, because we watched the first episode. And I looked at the time. We got time. They're 44 minutes long. Let's go to the second episode.
You're like Mr. Incredible. I still got time.
Yeah, I got time. Let's do it. So yeah. So that's why I figure Mara and I'll probably finish off season 2 like by Tuesday, but probably by Monday night. Worst case, Tuesday night after I get back from Taekwondo. Actually, there's no Taekwondo next week, so I'll be able to watch it the second the kids go to bed.
Jeez, binging.
Yeah. Time to get some binging done. So yeah. So saying that, now let's roll back to the Orville.
All right.
Hit me.
So the last episode is another Topa episode. And again, it's like they don't pull any punches. And it's a whole thing with her getting involved in a female colony of the Malklas. Is that how you say them?
Mm-hmm.
The gay Klingons. And she basically gets pulled into the resistance that is going to smuggle the females into the colony, even though it's against the Union law. And it's one of those things where, like, a lot of these shows try and make strong female characters, but anytime they make a strong female character, it's a male basically wearing a skirt. Like, they're taking the masculine traits and saying, "Oh, look, I'm a woman and I can do the same thing." This episode, again, with the Kelly character, who again was Wonder Woman in that what do you call it, that
failed pilot,
the promo or whatever they call it, and she was Mockingbird. So here's a character who can play a strong female character. But when she plays a strong female character in this, like, she's genuinely a female character. So she's completely powerful, but as she's embracing the feminine traits, and you have this kid who's gone through all this crap, like basically transgendered twice, and she's trying to find her spot. And there's this whole offshoot of female Klingons that aren't allowed in society, and it just takes such a complex issue, like they've done all season. They take this crazy complex issue and tell a great story around it, and it's like it's a conversation starter. No, it's not like it's propaganda. It's like, no, here's a bunch of ideas. This is what people go through. This is sort of like the landscape that we're dealing with, and this is what happens. So you got these essentially gay Klingons that want to wipe out all the females, and they want to squash their resistance movement. So again, it ties into like slavery, like Black American slavery things, but also like crazy right-wing bigot gay bashing things, and kind of cramming it all together. And you have these people that are trying to be themselves, but essentially the kid gets kidnapped during this colony, tortured for information because she was going to join this resistance, and Mercer and crew have to try and pull her back and try and like figure out, like, what does the Union do in this kind of situation. So it's like massive like diplomatic turmoil. And in the end, it's Kelly and Bortus have to go rescue her. Bortus has a great moment, father of the year as far as sci-fi dads go, where he finds the guy who was torturing his daughter and he gives it back. It's like, hell yeah, that is a beautiful moment. Like, he's definitely sci-fi father of the year for that. And in the end, the two factions, like the Union and the Mulclas, they part ways because they kidnapped this kid and tortured the kid, and it's like, no, we can't have that.
Yeah,
So again, another like knock it out of the park episode for the Orville.
Well, what I've liked so far about the episodes we've seen is they're dealing with very heavy issues, but not in a mocking way. Which
right, it's honest.
You would expect it from the mind of Seth MacFarlane, that like Family Guy, where they mock everything. You'd expect like, oh, it's suicide. Well, let's mock suicide.
Yeah,
and they didn't. They approached it in a very real fashion.
Yeah, it is very honest, and you can look at it from both sides. Like, it doesn't matter where you lie on the spectrum. It's like there's a conversation starter for like wherever you lie on it.
So I look forward to watching these episodes. You could spoil them all you want, but I'm still going to really enjoy it watching it. That's why I have no fear of you spoiling, because it's like I'm still going to watch it.
And the thing is, it's so good, and they're like an hour and 20 minutes long. It's crazy how long they're like little mini movies. The kids keep wanting to watch it, but it's late at night. It's like, oh my god, it's so late, we got to go to bed.
Yeah, so I'm really looking forward to that one. That sounds pretty awesome.
Yeah.
So Orville, watch it, people. Jeez, if you haven't started watching Orville, what the hell are you doing with your lives?
Yeah, best Star Trek in 2 decades.
Fully agree. So I'm going to jump back to the Dungeons and Dragons Honor Among Thieves announcement. The trailer was a surprise, mainly because so for anyone who remembers the what was it called, the Dungeons and Dragons movie from like 2000.
I didn't watch it. I remember it existed, but I never saw it.
It was a horrible fucking movie. It had Jeremy Irons, Marlon Wayans, Thora Birch, and then just a cast of who? And it was a terrible, terrible fucking film. Like, just an absolute travesty. The only good part in that whole film was Jeremy Irons basically saying, fuck it, I'm getting a paycheck no matter what performance I give in. Let's crank the hamminess up to 12.
That's amazing.
He was like screaming and like eye rolling and just going crazy. So fast forward to now. So they announced this Dungeons and Dragons Honor Among Thieves trailer or movie, and they throw a trailer, and it has Chris Pine, Jason Wong, Michelle Rodriguez from Fast and the Furious. And the thing is you can tell each character, like all the different characters, like this guy's the bard, this guy's the thief, this guy's the paladin, this guy's the mage, this girl's the druid. And they put some money behind it. You can tell they put money behind this, which really, there's a dragon, there's in the trailer we see,
as it should be, if it's Dungeons and Dragons, there should be a dragon.
But with the dragon fight, it initially looks like it's spitting rocks in a way, and first you're like, what the hell? And you realize,
what the hell was that?
It's not spitting rocks. It's basically it's
like lava puke that
kind of like a magma puke, like a hardened, and because the ground is all like burnt to shit where it put it in, like it's all smoking and burnt. So it's like, so stuff's obviously catching on fire. We don't know what kind of dragon this could be, like a shadow dragon or a ash dragon. I don't know. But my favorite is the fact that there's a gelatinous cube. There's a gelatinous cube, and it looks so good. It's like, finally we got a gelatinous fucking cube in a movie. Michelle Rodriguez is playing a barbarian. Chris Pine's playing a bard. And at one point they're like, "Oh, he plays the lute. I don't play that." And then you see him playing the lute, and stuff like that. And we got the paladin, we got the druid, and the druid at one point she turns into like a giant owl bear, which kind of works. It's like the body of a bear, head of an owl, covered in feathers.
Is that an actual thing?
Yeah, and don't you remember D&D, the owl bears?
I don't remember. I never did that. I was more a cyberpunk guy, but
they owl bears are a big creature, and basically it's a body of a bear, an enormous head of an owl instead of a bear head, covered in feathers, and they pull it off beautifully. And it was just like, Oh, the guy from the Jurassic Park Dominion movies, who's like the nerdy assistant guy. He's the mage, so he's like thin, reedy, glass cannon sort of bullshit. But yeah, like the owl bear was great. As I said, a gelatinous cube. Like you just I can't get over the gelatinous cube because it's such an awesome thing. And then there's a mimic. For anyone who's ever played D&D, a mimic, or who hasn't played D&D, a mimic it's a treasure chest, and as you approach it, it suddenly opens up, and the edges of the lids have teeth. It's got a long tongue that kind of like grabs you and like kind of pulls you in, and then it eats you. They have a mimic in the.
That was fun in the trailer. I got to say that.
It was.
I recognize that.
There's a displacer beast, which looks like a giant panther with giant black tentacles that come off its shoulders, and it can like teleport itself around. Well, in the short clip, it lunges towards the camera as the party jumps into a gelatinous cube to get out of the way. So, yeah, already very, very happy with this. I am looking forward to this film because it just looks fun enough to be kind of like a campaign. And yeah, so
for myself, I'm skeptical because there's a real bad track record for doing D&D.
Oh, there's a horrible track record.
Horrible track record. And this one, it seemed like they were leaning into doing the whole Guardians of the Galaxy Ragnarok kind of like, look, we're hip, we're cool, we're using modern music, we're trying to get everybody on board with that. And it's like, if that's a trailer,
yeah,
I can let it pass. But if that's the movie,
but
I don't know.
I think what sold it for me is at the very end, the druid is asking people what is it they do, and she turns to Chris Pine and says, "And what's your part in all this?" And he's like, "Oh, I make the plans." And so she's like, "So after that, we don't need you." He's like, "No, because when the plan goes wrong, I may come up with a new plan." She's like, "So you make plans that fail?" And he's like, No. She's like, "Don't you play the lute?" And he's like, "No, I don't play the lute." Cuts to the next scene, and he's like, kicking up his feet and strumming the lute, and it's just like, yes, he does.
Yeah, that part was pretty funny, and I can get into deep politics with all that with the last few administrations. There's something meta about that, which I thought was pretty awesome.
So I haven't seen a good D&D series since like the cartoon back in the 80s, and even that had some suspect moments.
And the thing with D&D is it should be like rip off Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
Right? It should have that vibe. It should be like if you were doing literally an RPG campaign, ripping off Lord of the Rings. That's what it should feel like.
Well, I look at this. So Dungeons and Dragons, the cartoon, came out 40 years ago, 1983, 40 years ago. It's not like Dungeons and Dragons, no one's ever heard of it. It's not like it hasn't made any money. It's taken them 40 years to say, all right, let's try again for another movie, because the one in 2000, 23 years ago, was just such absolute garbage. Everyone was like, D&D project? Absolutely no fucking way. I'm sure that movie lost so much money. People probably like bankrupted and lost their houses on that movie because it was just, ugh.
Now here's a fun fact. I think it was last weekend. My children and my nephews and nieces wanted to do a D&D campaign. I'm sure because of Stranger Things.
Probably.
Yep. They were hooked on that, and they were like, "Oh, we want to do a campaign." It's like, "Well, I know how to do that." It's like, "Dad, you have to do that." And so last week they were rolling up characters and creating this whole thing, and they were all set to go with it. It's like, oh crap, I don't have a companion. Okay, next time we meet up, we're gonna do one. So yeah, like my children and my nephews and nieces are all set to go with a D&D. So that brings me way back to Freak Pit days. And
well, I know that when Stranger Things came out, D&D had a huge surge of, I think at one point, like the player's handbook was really hard to find. It was like sold out just about everywhere because everyone was like, D&D? Huh, I like Stranger Things. Let's see what this whole D&D thing is like.
I believe that. Yeah.
It, brought a whole bunch of new players into the fold. So that's awesome that your kids and your nephews and of course Uncle Mike, are you going to be the DM? And you can't say
Yeah.
no when that happens. You can't like, I'm going to quash your dreams and not let you play D&D and say no. You're like, well, okay.
It's like, no, I got to make a proper campaign so that you kids are hooked.
Yeah.
Like, let's see what this experience is like. Yeah, they were. Yeah, I think half of them picked what the dragon characters, whatever, half dragon,
The
half
Dragon
human,
King.
and then it's like, I think I have some plot ideas for that. I think some people are going to be hunted.
Well, I mean, I'm sure there's some some trappers and bounty hunters out there like, oh, you bring in some dragonkin hens and we can give you some gold. So
Yeah. So they were all set to go that night. They all had their characters like, but we really need dice.
yes,
And we should really have some pizza.
dice, pizza, and some sort of soda.
Yeah.
And Doritos. Doritos have to be somewhere.
Essential.
Because you had at some point you have to wipe Dorito dust onto your character sheet.
Yeah.
Oh God, the good old days. How terrifying. So yeah, so this movie, makes me want to play D&D. That's what I watched. I was like this trailer. I was like, I want to play D&D now. Definitely.
I hope it's good. I really do. I hope all the music and all the the claptrap stuff in it.
Yeah, I'm
it's
hoping
just for the
that's part of
trailer to bring people in,
not the actual movie. But I mean, I think they got a good enough cast to at least pull some of it off. So, and the director is what's his face? The movie Game Night. He's one of the directors, the guy who did Game Night, which was a fun movie.
I've never seen that.
It was a fun comedy. It's like the Jason Bateman. I think that's who was in it. Basically they think they're playing a game night and it's actually a real heist that's going on, and
Okay.
they just think it's the whole time they're like, oh, I guess it's part of the game, let's play along. And no, there's actual crime being committed, but they're having
That
some
actually seems like a good directing choice then.
yeah, it does. It was so I think when I saw that, I was like, that's what kind of makes me hopeful. Because I'll just do a quick synopsis of Game Night just so I get it right. So yeah, it's about a husband and wife who are avid gamers, and they meet at bar trivia, and they propose. He ends up proposing to her through a game of charade. So they're a family that loves playing games. And then they host a regular game night with their friends, and then they do it in one night, and then one of the guests turns out to be a thief, and I was a thief or a kidnapper. I know a kidnapper. And so one of them gets kidnapped and they think it's part of the game. They're like, ooh, this is a nice turn of it. Let's go, let's follow this along. And it's like, no, it actually has been kidnapped. And I think this one was actually based on it follows a group of friends whose game night turns into a real life mystery after one of them is kidnapped. But for the most part of the film, they don't realize it's a real thing. They think it's part of the game. And so,
have you seen that movie?
I saw the movie way back when
it
came out. Yeah, it was fun. It was just again, the cast made the movie.
Yeah.
Because there was it was Jason Bateman. I'm just blanking on some of the names. But it was just fun enough that it was like, because this came out just before COVID. It was like 2018, so it was like a year or two before COVID. It was just such a unique idea. Because you get, I'd heard of people that like have like a couples game night sort of thing, and they all their friends who are couples with no kids, they come and they play variety of games. And imagine having a game like that, and someone breaks into the house and kidnaps someone. You think like, ooh, they're really taking that extra mile this time. Let's turn this into a mystery. That's awesome. Let's track these people down and all this bullshit. And it's like, yeah, okay. So yeah, getting this guy to do Dungeons and Dragons to me is it's kind of a good idea, and I think it comes out in February or March. I remember reading, I think it's March, but I think it's
I don't remember the
early
dates.
March.
I just know watching the trailer, I thought they were trying to be too claptrap, like Guardians of the Galaxy, Ragnarok. We're so hip, we're cool. This is the hip thing to watch. It's like, no, that's not what it should be.
Yeah.
So, like what you're saying, it should feel like Lord of the Rings, but it's like people on a campaign.
Yeah.
And like what you're saying about this game night thing, it's like that sounds like the right vibe.
Yeah. Now I just realized, because I got the trailer playing off to the side, it's a black dragon. It's spitting acid. That's why the ground's all burnt and torn up. The cool thing is most films, it's always a red dragon breathing fire.
Yeah.
So for the fact that they do a black dragon breathing acid, it's a nice change up. But anyone who's played D&D is going to know black dragon acid. So
Okay.
yeah, and I have to say it, gelatinous cube. I have been waiting so long to see a gelatinous cube on the screen. Because I mean, how many games did you have a gelatinous cube somewhere? So, yeah, I'm kind of. If you can't tell, I'm a little psyched about that.
Well, that's good. I hope it's good. I'm skeptical, but I do hope it's good.
Well, we have how many months does it take to get around? We got to go through Christmas and then a couple months in. So, yeah, I could do the math, but I'm hoping Troy does it for me because it's late at night and math is hard.
Yeah, that's where we need a little pop up.
Yeah, a little pop up in the corner, Troy.
Like Alone, that gives us facts.
Yeah. So yeah, little factoids. That's what it's called. Factoids. USA Today factoids. I remember that. Always a little pop up blurb like leaves had this many sides. Shit like that. So we're hoping on you, Troy. You're our only hope. Which leads me to you and your sons. So you had posted in Messenger that you were talking with your boys at the dock, it got silly, and you told them conversation was getting ridiculous.
Yes.
And what did they say in response?
So it was great. So, okay, because my boys are ridiculous and we have fun conversations. I don't even remember what we were talking about, but the whole conversation got very silly. And I said, boys, this conversation is getting ridiculous. And my son said, Dad, this has been ridiculous from a long time ago. And I said, in a galaxy far, far away. And then, if anybody remembers the book Where the Wild Things Are, okay, picture those sort of dance moves with the hands moving. From the dock, they start singing the Star Wars theme song. Dun, 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 dun. Started marching down the dock. And that's one of those proud father moments where it's like, okay, I did something right. I have faith in humanity, and I think the future is going to be okay.
Well, Zide said that's not just proof of proud father moment. That's proof of parenting done right. You're automatically given a buy on pretty much the next thing you do. Your wife goes, I don't know. You're like, hey, I already had my father of the year moment. You can't take that away from me.
All I had to do is say long, long time ago, far, far away.
Yep.
It's like, actually, all I said was far, far away.
Buy.
Yeah.
Doesn't
far,
matter
far away, and I got a theme song.
If when you leave the cottage and you accidentally leave a kid behind and you have to turn around and drive back 15 minutes to get them, you're given a buy. That's fine. They'll just be like, all right, that's good. Long time ago, great. Galaxy far, far away. You're good.
And I love the fact Troy said that Aslan sings the Imperial March. That's amazing. Imagine the cute little girl just walking around, dun 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 dun. It's like, okay.
I will admit, cool. I do that myself. Like when I'm taking the garbage bins down the driveway, I will hum the Imperial March to myself.
As you should.
Yeah. Or the theme from Superman, or even because it's a downhill on the driveway, and because I'm pulling the carts behind me, the bins behind me, I will hum the Indiana Jones theme. Because I know if I stop, those bins are going to roll right over me, so I can't stop going.
Yeah, gotta run from those boulders, man.
Exactly, and there's two of them, so double the trouble. Sometimes you got to do what you got to do. It's how you get by. Yeah. So in terms of things that are coming up, Disney Plus and all the other subscription and streaming services, I think the next thing is She-Hulk. I think that's the next big one is going to be She-Hulk.
I am so scared for this one because I want it to be so good.
After seeing the trailer, the new trailer that they put out, where we get to see Titania, we get to see a little bit more of Mark Ruffalo and what's her name? Tatiana, is that her name? It starts out with this whole thing. You see her laying peacefully in the bed, and you see like Professor Hulk's hand coming in with an air horn, And he gives it a quick beep, and it suddenly cuts to a long shot, and the bed breaks because she's now She-Hulk, and she's like, "What the hell?" He's like, "Oh, doesn't react to loud stimuli well, quick to anger or unreasonable anger." No, she's like, "No, this is reasonable anger. Poke me with an air horn." So something, and they in the trailer at one point she breaks the fourth wall, and it was done in just a really nice way, like something to the effect of he's got her on an island training her to use her strength and be
Okay,
able
yeah, they showed that.
yeah, can like restrain it. And I can't and he's like, "This is your greatest superpower, super friend." She's like, "What this?" She's like, "No, spandex. That's your new best friend, spandex." Um, and I just don't remember what it was. It was something to the effect of he's saying, God, I can't remember what he says something, and she turns away and says, "You see what I'm dealing with?" And then he turns like almost like, "Where are you looking?" And then she kind of looks at him, and then looks back, and in essence, directly at the camera, and then kind of tries to play it off with her eyes, like, "Oh, I don't know what you're talking about." And just the way he looks back, and she's like looking away, like not at the camera, but then she's glancing at the camera. So she's gonna break the fourth wall, just like in the comic book.
Okay, that's cool.
That's if she will do that often, like will turn and address the camera with an off comment, like, "Do you believe this shit?" Stuff
Like
like
Ricky
that.
Gervais, he was always perfect at that, and even
Yeah,
Modern Family would do that, where they occasionally, look at the camera and
yeah. So
respond.
this feels 100% like that, and the fact that when she does it, the other characters respond to her and kind of like they're looking around, or they're looking at her like, "Why would you make such a strange comment like that?" And then she's like trying to avoid them, but look at the camera like, "You see this?" If they can keep that consistent through the series, it's going to be awesome. That was one of my favorite parts about the She-Hulk comic book run, was when she would break the fourth wall repeatedly.
Yeah, that was like Deadpool before Deadpool.
Exactly. And as I said, there's a bunch. I mean, there's a whole thing, like the premise is she's defending Blonsky, the Abomination. And I also Hulk makes mention of, when you fall asleep, you revert back to Jennifer, but when you get stimuli, loud stimulus, she turns into She-Hulk instantly. But the fact is, they have hired her as the She-Hulk lawyer to defend Emil Blonsky, the Abomination, and we get to see him transform because um he's in his like human, so he's not stuck in his monstrous form. We also see Wong shows up. I don't know into what capacity he's there. But yeah, we can see Wong show up, and her foe Titania, who's basically super strong. And it's also, they talk about there's so many new superheroes showing up. Like there was a judge who, it's almost like she was an Asgard era, like one of the elves from Stiflehem, and she's wearing a glamour, and suddenly it pops off as she like bangs her gavel and shit like that. So there's all these different superheroes and super creatures going around.
I'm gonna have to check that out then.
Yeah, the trailer is so much fun. And yeah, as I said, we can see Blonsky transform, and at the very end, um, she's taking, like at one point she's taking on like a group of like wannabe supervillains. Um, and yeah, and then it's the the guy flips over her. He's wearing the reddish black suit, and then it cuts in close, and he's got the billy clubs, and it's like, Daredevil. Is she going to take on Matt Murdock in the courtroom? God,
That's one thing. It's like you had to have Daredevil in that. If you're gonna do a legal drama,
yeah, and
you better put Daredevil in.
it looks like they listened, because this trailer. So the last trailer, I was kind of on the fence, as if if it's
That's
the only thing
pretty
on.
off the fence with the trailer.
Yeah, I was on the fence as much as, if it's the only thing on, I might watch it, or I probably would watch it, but I'm not going to be like, "Ooh, it's Wednesday, I gotta go watch She-Hulk." Watching this, especially when she breaks the fourth wall, makes me like, every Wednesday I'm going to be like, "I gotta see it, gotta see it." I want to see her, like how she breaks the fourth wall and how people react to her breaking the fourth wall. Because just be like me talking to you and suddenly going, "You believe this shit?" And then your reaction, who you talking to? And it's that sort of look that Mark Ruffalo as Professor Hulk gives her when she says that, like, "What do you, what do you?" And just the way she avoids his gaze and looks away, and then kind of glances at the camera, like, So yeah, that sort of stuff. If they keep that in, it's going to be an awesome series.
Yeah, that's the way my dog looks at me.
Yeah,
What are you
yeah.
trying
When
to do?
you're eating something, you look at the dog, and the dog's like, hmm,
Yeah.
and then kind of glances at you. Are you looked away yet? Oh, you looked away. I'm gonna look at your food. Oh no, no,
It's like
no.
this didn't happen if I don't make eye contact.
Yeah, it didn't have. As long as they don't make eye contact, I didn't do it. This didn't happen. And you're like, you've got the mud on your paws that you're tracking. The dog's like,
Not if I don't look at you.
I see no mud. I'm looking at the ceiling. I see no mud anywhere. Yeah, so that's what this felt like. So yeah, I am super excited by this series. This trail, as I said, this trailer made me from sitting on the fence of, hey, should I watch it? Maybe watch it too. Definitely going to watch it. That's how much the trailer, I think, how well the trailer was done.
Okay, I haven't seen the trailer yet, but I will definitely watch it.
We'll make sure he watches it for the next episode, folks. So yeah, that's what I would say of, all the different trailers that came out from San Diego Comic-Con. This is the one that gave me a whole lot of hope for a particular project.
Nice, because I was super excited about this series.
Me too. I mean, just because as I said, I loved the run of She-Hulk. It was so much fun to read. Yeah, so
And if done right, it could be so different than everything else.
Exactly. And it's such a fun, I mean, she's such a fun character, and you've got such great source material to pull from, like Sensational She-Hulk, that this is the one series you don't want them to screw up. Make it 6 good episodes.
Yeah.
And we'll see where it goes. So, yeah. And I want to see what the relationship between Wong and Blonsky is. Like, because we saw them in Shang-Chi, and they were fighting, but then when they cut to the locker room and they were working out, like this was a whole plan they had, and then they leave together, and you're like, okay, what's the connection of what is that? What does Blonsky have on Wong, or what does Wong have on Blonsky? Like, how do they relate to each other? What's the relationship? Hopefully this is going to explain, because it looks like she has a long discussion with Wong at several points. So it's going to fill in information I'm dying to know about.
So is Wong fixing fights or what?
Is he? I don't know if he was fixing fights, or hopefully they'll explain that. Like, oh, we fake fight on the underground fight circuit to make some money, or we're looking for a contact, or just explain why he was there.
Yeah.
Give us that. So yeah, as I said, this is the one, and it's coming up soon. Like, I think it's in mid-August. Just quickly look up. This is something that Troy's going to be able to pop up. He'll give us and it's 9 episodes, not 6, 9.
Wow. So they're committed.
Yeah, they're committed to this, and they have. Like, I mean, you've got Tim Roth, you've got Benedict Wong, you've got Mark Ruffalo. So they're not, just throwing a bunch of no names out there and one name and like, there we go. They're actually putting some names in this. So, because hopefully we'll see her show up in a movie, either as a replacement for Hulk on a team or with Hulk or so, just something.
I want to see her join the Fantastic Four.
I would like to see that too. So yeah, so Feige, if you're listening, put her on the Fantastic Four. Maybe even throw in like an alternate dimension version shows up, and you got Chris Evans as as the Human Torch, and you got She-Hulk filling in for Ben Grimm like she did on the comics run. Let's do it. And you can even have Jessica Alba reprising her role as the Invisible Woman, and what's his face? God, I forgot his name, doing the role as Mr. Fantastic.
Why didn't they do that in Doctor Strange? They had a chance.
They had a chance, but I think so many people have been clamoring for Krasinski to be Mr. Fantastic, because there's been that whole rumor that he's gonna be Mr. Fantastic, and his wife Emily Blunt's gonna be the Invisible Girl.
Yeah.
But I think that was just a case of them like throwing a bone to the fans, saying, "All right, let's see what he looks like as Mr. Fantastic." Hopefully this will be enough to shut you up for a minute.
Then we'll turn him into blue spaghetti real quick.
Yeah, painful blue spaghetti. So yeah, so I said I really like this trailer. This one, it did give me um hope for what's going to happen. I saw the Wakanda Forever trailer. As I said, it's a lot of very, very, very fast cuts. They do acknowledge that T'Challa is dead.
They do.
They do, because the queen has
Any
taken over Wakanda, and she says she has lost her family. And they cut to a mural of T'Challa's face on a wall. So they have acknowledged that T'Challa is dead.
wonder how they're gonna pull that off.
I don't
Like
know.
that's such a crazy thing because I know like it's a
I don't know
balance
who's.
because real life stuff happens, but
Yeah.
then you have a fictional character, and like how do you bring that together in a
Well,
way?
they did say they weren't going to use like a body double or anything for Boseman's role. Like it's done. Like so they have killed off T'Challa. They hint
I don't
that
know
there's
how they're
another.
gonna make that work.
I don't know if there's gonna, because they keep showing like people are tearful. I guess thinking about him. There's a baby born and it's Namor, because you see as the baby comes out, it's got the little wings on the feet. So the Atlanteans play a huge part in this.
Wow.
I think the Atlanteans attack the Wakandans. So there's like a huge. At one point, there's like two big whales go swimming by, and there's all these soldiers, Atlantean soldiers, hooked onto it, like onto the two whales. So yeah, that's, I think the big thing is it's the Atlanteans versus the Wakandans. And I think
That's
it's,
a cool idea.
yeah, and it's so they introduce Namor, um, who looks like he maybe even challenges for rule of Wakanda. You've got some of the different tribesmen. They show a quick glance of someone in the Black Panther armor, but they don't show who. Um, but a lot of the Atlanteans have blue skin, so you could. It's almost like watching Avatar in a way, because everyone's like all these Atlanteans have blue skin, but it doesn't look as terrible as Avatar. But they're stronger than regular humans. But yeah, Namor's in there with the little wings on his feet, so mutants. Um, so yeah, this is yeah, because there's a scene of just, and things that kind of, I don't want to I don't want to guess this, but so it's a scene of, you see like when Black Panther pops his claws. So it's
Yeah.
like he's in like the corner of the frame, you see like a bit of his leg, and you see the hand come down and pop the claws, but it's not the black on black of Black Panther, it's the black with the gold accents of Killmonger.
Weird.
So I don't know if it is Killmonger or if it's someone using the suit that Killmonger used from Black Panther, because remember he grabbed the one with the big gold chains or whatever. But we do see a quick thing of one with silver, like the silver teeth. So I don't know. I mean, they've played this one so close to the vest. Not a whole lot of details coming out. Like this, we found out that finally we get to see the birth of Namor, and we get to see Namor as a man and attacking what we appears to be Wakanda. So that's as
I
much as.
guess that could be a flashback, honestly.
Well, the birth could be, yeah. I mean, the birth
Like
is
the
obviously
birth.
a flashback, but like even the popping of the claws and the gold outfit, that could be a flashback of Killmonger
Yeah.
doing something like enraging in Atlantis in some way. So now they're getting reprisal, not realizing that Killmonger's been killed and he's dead or whatever.
Okay, so what do you think about them like killing the fictional character because the actor passed away? Like
I
I
honestly,
understand having to remove him from the movie, right? Because you want to honor his legacy and
mhm.
that. But
I
I don't know, where do you stand?
I think, for me personally, I think in this case it's appropriate, because I think Chadwick Boseman would have been so hard for someone to step into that role. That anyone would given the nod, like, all right, you're gonna be playing, T'Challa, Black Panther, the role of Chadwick Boseman. I think any actor worth his salt would have been like, no thanks. Um, it's he portrayed that role so well. Anyone stepping into that role would just automatically know, like, well, I'm doing an inferior job. So I think with them killing off T'Challa and having a new Black Panther, so either someone from one of the other tribes or someone to that effect takes on the mantle of the Black Panther. because we still don't know. I mean, in this movie, we're going to have someone taking over the mantle of Iron Man as Riri Williams becomes the Ironheart.
Right.
So I think we're seeing in essence 3 new characters. We're going to see the new Black Panther. We're going to see the new Iron Man as Riri, and we're seeing Namor being debuted in the MCU. I mean, for me, Namor he was one of the originals. He was one of the big tent poles that Marvel had. And I was like, it's taken them so long to A, acknowledge Atlantis, and B, bring out Namor. So,
and it's a wonky character. It's like it's a dude in a Speedo with wings on his feet. Like, what the hell?
And he was one of the original.
If Spock was flying around with wings on his feet wearing a Speedo.
Exactly. And he's one of the original mutants. Yeah. Because he's half human, half Atlantean, but also a mutant from there as well. Because through the comics run, he met many hybrid mutant, like human Atlanteans. They couldn't fly. They didn't have his strength, stuff like that. So I hope we just see the little wings flutter as he flies. That'll be fun. So yeah, this movie had a lot of interesting things, this trailer. So I was just like, how are they going to handle? And then when they show and it's Angela Bassett going, I've lost my family. Her husband's dead. Oh, the only person she has left of her immediate family is her daughter. So
is she still in it?
Yeah, she is.
Okay. Because I heard Disney might have canceled her like Gina Carano.
No. She's in it. You see her in quite a few scenes. They may have pulled back her role a bit, but yeah. And so in this movie, in essence, they have to introduce 3 characters: the new Black Panther, T'Challa's successor, Riri, and Namor. So I just hope
big problem I have with this, like if you kill the Black Panther off screen, like I think that's cheating the legacy of the character. And like, even though like the real life tragedy, like you can't just push that aside, because like you said, he nailed the character so well that nobody could just step in and replace it.
Yeah.
But you could tell a story. It's almost like a Star Trek Lower Decks. It's, okay, because we can't deal with the Black Panther directly.
Yeah.
No, we can make him like the big kind of Gandalf character, like someone in the background, and bring up the next generation.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, we don't know. I mean, they may do a quick scene of like Black Panther on a mission where it goes horribly wrong, and then you cut to a state funeral.
If they do that, it's got to be so good.
Yeah, I mean, otherwise,
again, the character was so classic, and again, this is a character that my kids
the thing
wanted to be.
Looking at the trailer,
so powerful.
Yeah, looking at the trailer, you've got a lot of people who are in mourning. Like there is definitely what looks to be a funeral scene, because you got everyone dressed in white doing traditional dances and singing and stuff. And it looks like, and the thing is you got like people with like who are in mourning have like the headdress on.
Yeah.
So there's obviously some sort of funeral or mourning celebration or something like that. And it looks like it happens very early in the film. And then Angela Bassett's character, the mom, having to take over Wakanda. And, when she makes that statement of, I've given up my family, or I've lost my family. She's very, Angela Bassett, of course, acts the hell out of it because she can. It's a very interesting trailer. So I just don't know. I don't even want to guess as to where it's going to go, because it's a lot of fast cuts and they kind of keep you off balance. And I think that's on purpose, because I said they have played this so close to the vest. I knew they were going to have to release a trailer anyway, because they're so close. It comes out in November. And it's just around the corner, and they want to build up some excitement for it. So I think the trailer works to get people interested without revealing too much. So,
okay.
Yeah. So as I said, it looks like, because at one point you see like the throne room in Wakanda being flooded with water. So I'm assuming that's something.
Sounds like Atlantis.
Yeah, it sounds like Atlantis and Wakanda are going head to head. Because I remember, if you remember, at the end of Black Panther when Wakanda was announcing their real position on the planet. And so maybe this is, Atlantis finally saying, all right, you took our stuff or something to that effect, or, don't take our ball. We don't want to go home yet, sort of thing. So we'll see. We'll see how it goes. So yeah, as it's this last couple of days has been very interesting in terms of all the announcements from the San Diego Comic-Con.
Yeah.
Like it's just been crazy. So anything else we want to discuss? Do we want to do any tales from animation?
I don't have any that I'm gonna just drop today, but I know you had one you were gonna mention last week. So
Yeah.
hit that.
So I'm gonna talk about this was some stuff that came when I was freelancing in Toronto. So directly out of college, I freelanced for a couple of years, mainly because so coming out of college, I had gotten an offer from Electronic Arts in Vancouver. And they flew like 6 of us from Toronto to Vancouver to tour the studio. They put us up at a hotel. It was all really nice. I mean, the facilities were top notch. And for those who don't know, Electronic Arts Vancouver, EA Vancouver, primarily at the time dealt with sports games. So like the FIFAs, the NHLs, NBAs, all that stuff came out of Vancouver. And so I was like, okay, I could work on sports games. It's not that bad. And they took us to like the big mocap studio they have, which was an enormous building, by the way. I mean, you could play a full soccer game in there. It was so big. And they had like racks and racks of like mocap suits. And this is the part where they shot themselves in the foot. So we had 2 meetings back to back. The first meeting was the cost of living in Vancouver. This guy came in and he talked about what the cost of living is in Vancouver versus Toronto, how much it would cost to live in the area, the transportation, like, the transportation routes. There wasn't really a great public transportation route to the studio, so you would have to have a car or a carpool to get to the studio. And he basically told us, it was 6 single guys, and he's like, to live in the area, you'd have to be making between 36 and 38,000 a year Canadian. This day and age, not a mind shattering amount, but coming out of college in like 97, it was like, okay, that's decent. And then the next round of meetings we had was one-on-one with recruiters who had said, based off our portfolios and our interests, because we had to write down like what departments we were interested in, stuff like that. Like, did we want to do in the if you're for 2D animators, they would basically get you onto Photoshop to like make jerseys and shit like that. Then 3D animators be working on the models, and then if you're working on 2D stuff, you could like train in the software and eventually become a 3D animator. And the 3D animators, 90% of it was mocap cleanup, was what you were doing, because they would mocap everything and you just go in and clean the splines. And so I was offered a position to work on, I think it was the next iteration of NBA. I'd be doing color matching of jerseys, putting numbers on jerseys and names on jerseys and all that sort of stuff. And it was, okay, that's fine. But then they said, this is the part that was kind of strange. They're like, so EA has this whole benefits program that if you work on games, especially their AAA titles, when that game goes out and starts selling and stuff like that, once it reaches a certain sell point, then the people who work on that game get a residual. And that's used basically to bump up your salary. It's like, it's like your year-end bonus sort of thing. And the more games that you work on, the bigger bonus you will get at the end of the year. So if you worked on like NBA and NHL, you'll get a bump up. The thing is it takes about 3 years. So if you work on, let's say, NHL 2010, you will not see any bump ups in terms of money coming back to you until 2013. So it takes a while for this stuff to happen. So we were told that, so initially the salaries might seem low, but once you start getting your bump ups, then your salary starts to go higher and higher, because depending on what job you do, you may end up working on 3 or 4 different titles in a single year. That's fine. So keep in mind, we had gone, like 6 of us had sat in that meeting where we told, you've got to make about at least 35,000 a year to live in the area, to live in BC, and make do sort of thing. So I sit in the interview where they're like, oh, we like you work on this NBA game, and your starting salary is 26,000 a year. And I'm like, so where do I come up with the other 10,000 a year I'll need to live in this area so I can work for the studio? And they're like, oh, well, our suggestion is get a bunch of roommates, not like a roommate, a bunch. Oh, and I'm like, so how many are you talking? And they're like, well, people in the past have rented houses together, 6, 7, 8 people living in a house, like a 3-bedroom house, and they hot shift the beds because the studio works 24 hours. And I'm thinking, I don't want to come home and wait for the person to vacate the bed so I can go to bed. Knowing that 8 hours later I gotta get out of bed because the next person coming in needs that bed, and have to work like that for 3 years before I start getting bump ups enough that I can like go afford my own house. In the meantime, still paying like student loans and all that. And I was just like, I think I'm gonna have to pass. It struck me as such a, here's the salary we're going to give you. By the way, we've already told you you're going to have to make this much to live in the area. I even said to him, I don't know about you, but I don't have $30,000 sitting in my bank account to supplement my income for 3 years. Like it just doesn't. I just can't do that. And the next question is, well, do you have family in the area you can stay with? No. Like it was just such a strange. I don't know what they expected. So yeah, so needless to say, I came back to Toronto and I started freelancing because I got home and within like 2 days, I got a call of like, we need an animator. Do you think you can help out? I was like, sure. And I mean, I learned like Lightwave on the fly. And so I was taking freelance jobs, and they just one would dovetail into the next. It was great. So I didn't even look at like getting hired at Nelvana or any of the other local studios, because I was making more freelancing than I could, working on Donkey Kong Country at Nelvana at the time, or Backyardigans or one of the other studios doing shows like that. So I'm working in freelance, and I have to say, 2 years in freelance, I learned so much, and a lot of it is what not to do on the business side of being a freelancer. Um, I learned like, how much money you should get up front, how you create your, how much of a wage you should request. So like if they need you for 2 weeks, figure out how much your time is worth for 2 weeks. And as I said, a couple times I got burned. And this particular story centers around, so there was a client who, I think he was kind of ahead of his time. YouTube, I think, would have probably been his best bet, but YouTube didn't come out until 2006. So he was almost a decade ahead of time, ahead of himself. So he was trying to put together a show called The Toy Shop, and it was TOYSHOPPE, so the old English style version of shop. And the whole idea is you had 3 hosts, and the one host who was dressed in like a lab coat would talk about like science, sciencey sort of toys and educational toys. And the woman would talk about basically girl toys. And then the hip guy, who was just a middle-aged man dressed in clothing that like a teenager should be wearing, would talk about all the cool and fun toys and maybe some video game stuff. So he had these people cast. They had filmed a handful of pilot episodes, but what they lacked was a title sequence. So, and he wanted it all hand animated. So I was given photos of the cast members. I was actually given the first pilot to watch, and the show was pure Canadian garbage. Like just looked like filmed on a Super 8 VHS camera. Just horrible. No motion blur at all. So yeah, it had that feel of like Canadian video from the 80s. So I watched the show and the dialogue was horrendous, and I was like, all right, I can work with this. I can do this. So I did sketches of the character, the three main characters. Those were approved, and I matched their costumes right up. And initially, it's the God, I even remember doing this animation. So the two characters kind of do like a white animation in and quickly get to place and kind of like settle into place. And then the hip character moonwalks backwards to them, bumps into them, does like this quick spin and kind of like is all surprised they're there. And then they turn to the camera and acknowledge the camera. And then the font, like the word toy shop comes in the specific font that he wanted. And then the hip guy kind of like leans on the letters and gives a thumbs up. Just pure crap. And he kept calling me daily with updates because as soon as I could get this done, he needed to get it attached and he was going to shop this episode around. He was trying to get it put on like CBC and the whole time, or YTV. For anyone, any Canadian listeners, you know what YTV is. And so I was like, I pushed myself on this one. I animated probably 16 hours a day getting this done. And the hip guy's costume was just a mishmash of crap. And there was like patterned fabrics that I was like tracking. Oh yeah, it was fucking horrendous. I can't even sugarcoat it. It was a horrendous job. And now I get it all animated. It's looking nice. Now I got to clean this thing up, scan it. I didn't own a scanner. So I had to rent a scanner that would take animation paper. So it's a bigger than normal. So I rent this fucking scanner. The software, of course, does not want to be compatible with what I'm using. So it was a nightmare to get this scanner to work. And I taped down peg bars so everything would register. And I take it into, God, I can't remember the program I put it into. And I finish cleaning it up and color the whole thing, get it all colored. Had to pay for the fucking font this guy was just so much in love with, when honestly I could have just taken Arial with a couple little changes of the serifs and it would have been fine. But no, he had this fucking font I had to pay like $50 for. Get it all done. Now it has to be so. Broadcast TV is not done with your standard VHS tape. It's done with the broadcast TV is done with its own format of tapes. They're basically almost like Betamax tapes. The machines you use to record onto these tapes are in like the tens of thousands of dollars. I'm not going to buy one of these fucking machines. So I got to rent it. So luckily there's an AV place in Oakville that could rent me the machine. Get it home, hook it up to my computer, and it basically records one frame at a time onto these fucking tapes. By the way, these tapes cost $800 fucking dollars in 1997. Well, it's like early 98. $800 for this fucking tape. Because the guy couldn't supply me a tape. Of course not. So between the rental of the scanner, the rental of the recorder unit, and the purchase of this fucking tape, I'm out close to $2,500. And in the back of my mind, I'm fucking panicking. I'm like, holy shit. I'd better pay out. Get it done. Have the tape. Now they can very easily edit the show onto that tape, and then he can shop it around to his absolute fucking delight. So I call him up and I'm like, it's done. It's, in the can, on the tape, ready to go. So he's like, well, meet me at, I think it was like a Second Cup, which is kind of like a Dunkin' Donuts or a Tim Hortons or whatever. It was a Second Cup. So I show up there and he's like, so you got the tape? And I have it in my portfolio case. And I'm like, yes, it's all right here. And he wanted the original drawings so that he could show them like a drawing, I guess, to prospective investors. So I have a thick ass folder of drawings in this tape and backups on zip disks of the colored files. And he's like, all right, that's great. And I'm like, okay, so you just got to pay me and I'll give you all this stuff. And he's like, oh, I don't have any money on me. I'm like, well, a check is fine. And so he's like, so what did we agree on? I'm like, the total, no, the total bid that I had agreed on, we set a contract, it was $7,500. So I figured with the week and a bit plus the cost of all the renting and stuff, I was still going to make a good profit. That was going to cover me for a bit. And his eyes kind of bulged and he's like, "Oh, I thought it was 750." And I'm like, "That doesn't even cover the cost of the tape that I had to buy because you couldn't supply one." So he pulls out the contract, and you can tell someone had taken whiteout and he had whited out one of the zeros because there was like 750, a gap, .00. And I pulled out my copy, which was the original copy, because he took the photocopy of it. And I'm like, no, you can even feel it back where it's 7,500. So he's like, well, let me call my partner and get him to cut a check and bring it down here. And I'm like, all right, that's good. And I'm sitting there, and this is the part where if I'd had a gun, which you really can't have in Canada, I would have shot him. Because this is what the fucker did. This is the part that pissed me off to no end. So you got to remember, the portfolio case beside me has the tape, the zip discs, the original artwork, and the contract. He shoves me back so the chair goes over backwards, grabs the case, and fucking books it for the door. And by the time I scrambled up to from the ground, he was out the door and gone. And I was like, "You son of a bitch!" So I run over. The guy at the second cup gave me the store phone to use. Call 911. Well, first I called this guy's cell phone, which is immediately deactivated. It was just going to this number is no longer in service. I call the landline number he gave me. This number is no longer in service. I call 911. Cop gets there. They're like, "Well, do you have an address?" I'm like, "Yes." I give the guy an address. He had vacated it the day before. This guy vanished to the fucking wind. So I had to eat the cost of the rental and the purchase of the tape. I had nothing to show for it. Not a god. I had files on my computer, and that was it. And that was one of the tipping points that I was like, fuck it, I'm getting a studio job. And less than a week later, I took a studio job. And that's, yeah. That one incident taught me a lot about freelancing. Now, I've done freelancing since then. I did freelancing when I was in Montreal. I did freelancing in Ottawa. I've learned my lessons. That's never happened again. But yeah. Yeah.
I totally think you could have tackled that guy.
I would have, if I would have, but he was smart enough that when he pushed me and so my chair tipped back, that gave him enough time to grab the case and run. If my chair hadn't tipped back enough for me to fall onto my back, if I had tackled that guy, I would have probably crippled the bastard. I would have broken both of his legs and broken both his arms. Like, I was pissed for like a full week. I'm surprised that when I interviewed at the studio that they were just like, he's too angry to hire. Oh, I was livid. Oh my God. Looking back, I'm like, I don't see how anyone wanted to be anywhere near me.
Do you ever track this dude down?
No, I mean, years later, I've gone through Facebook and looked for this guy. Nothing. This guy vanished off the face of the fucking earth. He probably like went to Europe or something. Like I was just, and of course, I contacted YTV. They had meetings with this guy. But all the numbers that he ever gave them, none of them panned out to anything. They all went to like dead end numbers. So I even at one point I did internet searches, like maybe he took the show idea to Europe or Asia or there. I scoured YouTube when it first came out looking for this. Never seen anything about it. Not one. Yeah. I said I was pissed. I was so pissed. So
I can't believe he knocked you back.
He wasn't a small guy. I'll give him that. Like he was not a small guy, but quick on his feet. He had to be because, yeah, because when I hit the door at the second company, I mean, it was a long street, but he
Yeah,
was nowhere to be found. I don't know if he had a car waiting or if he ducked down an alley or what, but yeah, he was gone.
that's amazing.
And I was pissed. I was so fucking pissed. So yeah, but as I said, I had to eat that money and just move forward. But yeah, that's one of the instances that really turned me off of doing freelancing, because up to that point I had been pretty successful doing freelancing. Like I did stuff for like Toronto Dominion Bank. I did like an advertisement for Visa for them, which is mainly just a spinning credit card. I did like for HMV, I did like Adidas, like in their in-store monitors. I did like stuff for Adidas and a couple of other like a lot of logo shit, because it was easy at the time. I mean, it's thinking back, like the one Adidas logo I did took me over a week and a half, where today on today's hardware and software, I could probably crank it out in 15 minutes. But yeah, so that's my tale of animation for this week.
I think that's an important lesson for all future animators to know, is that if you're going to do animation, especially freelance, you should probably learn some kung fu or taekwondo or
bring someone with you. My advice is for any
have a hitman at the door.
Yeah, for any freelancer, when you have to meet a client in a public place, bring someone with you.
Just someone that can just put the foot out to the Bugs Bunny trip at the door. Just
something, because you never. Classic. I mean, sometimes clients get really squirrely when it's time to make that final pay. I've had clients that, I've given them a 60-40 contract. They pay me 60% up front, and then they just have to make that initial, like that last 40% payoff, and suddenly they get all squirrely about it. Like they figure I paid them some money, I should be able to take it all away and not pay them the rest. And it's like, no. So like other freelance jobs I've had long after that, when it's time to meet up with a client, especially if they insist on a public venue, I bring someone with me. It may be harsh, but I expect the worst now. I expect people to try to screw me over. And I mean, even when you're bidding on a job and the negotiations back and forth, they're always trying to undercut you. It's Mark Simon actually talked about the triangle of any job. It can be done fast, it can be done cheaply, or it can be done well. And a client gets to pick two at most.
That's classic. And that's absolutely true. Everything I've experienced in animation is that.
Yeah.
Fast, good, or cheap. Like, which one do you want?
Yeah. And things
pick two.
Clients always want to get all three. And it's like, you only get, at most, you get to pick two. Depending on what it is you want, you may only get one.
Yep.
You can either fast, you can have it cheap, or you can
have it fast and cheap. Might not be so good.
Exactly.
Good and fast might cost you.
Yeah, exactly. And it's a hard, I mean, and the thing is for people starting out freelancing, they promise the moon at a fast turnaround for no money. And that undercuts all the other freelancers, because it may be a job that requires more time or requires, if they want that level of quality, it's going to cost you more, but they come in undercutting you by sometimes several $1,000s. Well, of course, the client's going to go to the cheaper option.
Yeah.
I mean, for a while, when I was in Ottawa, I had a reputation of basically being the fix-it. Because I would get a client saying, yeah, we went with an artist and it didn't turn out the way we wanted. Can you fix it? Can you make it look good? And I'd be like, let me take a look what it is, and then I'll give you a quote. And sometimes it fell into their ball, and sometimes like, this is almost double what we spent on the last guy. And I would tell people, you get what you pay for. It's either going to come fast, it's going to come cheap, or it's going to come good. And if you're lucky, you get to choose two, but you never get all three. And especially when you're dealing with someone fresh out of college, they overestimate their abilities, they underestimate how much time it's going to take, and they especially underbid because they just want to get that first job under their belt, and they turn in garbage. And then the client's stuck with like, well, they've already paid out money, they have something they can't use. And so I took a lot of jobs like that. So I had my normal day job, and at night I was doing those jobs. And yeah, at one point I remember a client saying, he's like, yeah, like all the other, all his other friends tell him that when something went wrong with an animation job my name was the top name on the list. And I'd be like, so there was a couple of times I had to just say, I can't do it. I'm swamped. I mean, I've got like, this project and 2 others already lined up. I can't add you. I can't get you, slotted in there. It's just not going to work. And it was a nice gig to have, but again, I saw so much garbage. Like I would get like project files that like you would have to be, Houdini to work, weave some magic to figure out how the hell you're going to make this work, because shit was just, ugh, yeah. So yeah, my advice to the experienced freelancers: don't undersell yourself. Always bring backup when you're at a meeting, and don't overestimate what you can do, and don't underestimate how long it takes. Because yeah, you'll get stuck, and you'll get burned, and you'll end up eating a contract, especially if you don't have the equipment and you have to rent it. That's, I think, the part that galled me the most was I had to rent this fucking equipment, and this guy just stole it. I mean, it was truly. I even like I had to file a report with the Toronto police, and they said it was because the contract was over $5,000. It was considered like larceny, like grand larceny. But without any ways of tracking this guy down, it was very little chance they'd ever get him. So yeah. Yeah. That one still stings. Like, even when I was just talking about it now, I still just get a little heated. If I find that guy, yeah, I'm gonna cripple that bastard. I want to let it go, but it's just one of those things that, you fucker. Like, I had that money earmarked for specific things. I was going to upgrade my computer so I could finally use Softimage at home well and not have it like just stagger and stutter. And yeah, I had all these great plans for that. And yeah, he fucked it up.
I even got heated. I'm actually sweating.
So yeah, so next week you got to come up with one.
I don't think I can top that.
I didn't have to top it. Just, give us something from something that's happened to you from your perspective. That's all we ask.
All right, we'll find something.
I'm sure there's something there, like a project that didn't go the way you wanted or something like that. Yeah, it was funny when I was thinking of different things I could talk about. I was like, all right, can't talk about that one because that NDA is actually still in. I have NDAs against me for like 50 years, from the late 90s that I will not be able to discuss in a public forum until like 2040. And I'm like, shit, they really. But sometimes to get a job, you're like, fuck it, I'll sign that NDA because check looks real nice when they hand it to you. So yeah. Come up with something. All right. On that note, I think we're going to wrap this up. We're going to leave a nice big heap to be edited, maybe some graphics put in. Hint, hint. And
nudge, nudge, wink, wink. Say no more.
A nod's as good as a wink to a blind bat.
Yeah, say no more. Say no more. So all right. So this was episode 46 for those who were keeping count and have the scorecard. And yeah,
you might have learned something. Hey, how about that?
The more you know.
Jejo. That's not the way the line goes, but
no, it's like the more you know. The little. I'm sure someone will find the graphics of like the rainbow or the stars as the more you know.
Yeah, and then Duke will give a thumbs up in between.
Yeah.
Put it all together.
All right, so we'll do a collective goodbye.
Collective goodbye.
All right, in 3, 2, 1.
Collective goodbye.
I think last week's was better. We'll work on it. We got to get Gavin in here and Troy in here to help us with it. It doesn't sound good.
No, just to take some of the blame.
Yeah,
for all the mishaps.
Take all of the blame, actually. But anyways,
Troy will fix it in post.
Awesome.
We're counting on you, Troy.
We are. Big thumbs up. Really big thumbs up. All right. Good night, folks.
Good night.
And bye-bye.
This has been Geeking Off the Page, a Planet Geek production. Please be sure to subscribe, share, rate, and review. You can find us at our social medias through Facebook, YouTube, and TikTok. Search for Planet Geek Productions. On Instagram and Twitter, Planet Geek Pod. Or you can send us an email at planetgeekpod@gmail.com. So until next bad time, same Spider Channel, may the Force be with you, and thanks for tuning in.
Well, let me see if I can find it. We're looking for the poster. Let's see. Come on.
That's okay. Troy can cut out all this dead time.
Yeah, he can. I mean, he does those sorts of things really well. Snip, snip, cut. Yeah, throw it up there. But you can definitely see. I'm just going to throw it on the screen share for you so you can see it. Can you see that?